At 15 years old, he was playing professional football. At 15, he played for his country. At 16, he signed for Real Madrid, and half of Europe decided he was the most overhyped teenager alive. Then he disappeared for 5 years. Loaned out, sent away, written off. A trivia answer about being the youngest player in Real Madrid's history. This is the story of how Martin Ødegaard came back from being a joke and ended up captaining one of the biggest clubs in England. He was born in 1998 in Drammen, a town half an hour outside Oslo. His father, Hans Erik, was a footballer, a solid lower league professional, and then a coach. That combination, a football father who was good but not great, turns out to matter enormously. A father who reached the professional game knows exactly how thin the margins are. A father who never quite made it knows which details get overlooked. Hans Erik had both kinds of knowledge, and he spent it all on his son. Because Hans Erik built his son's childhood around technique, not strength, not running. Touch. Thousands of repetitions in a Norwegian sports hall through winters where you cannot go outside for months. Norway is not a football country in the way Brazil or Spain are. There is no street game, no year-round pitch, no culture of 1,000 kids playing every evening. Whatever Martin was going to be, it had to be built deliberately, indoors, one movement at a time. In April of 2014, aged 15, he made his debut for Strømsgodset in the Norwegian top division. A month later he scored and became the youngest goalscorer in the league's history. By August, at 15 years old, he was playing for the Norwegian national team, the youngest player ever to do it. 15. Most players that age are worrying about school. What happened next was not really about football. Every major club in Europe wanted him, and they were not subtle about it. He was flown around the continent. Bayern, Liverpool, Manchester United, Barcelona, Ajax, all of them making their pitch to a 15-year-old and his parents. He toured training grounds like a prospective student visiting universities. Managers who had won European trophies sat in rooms explaining themselves to a schoolboy from Drammen. In January 2015, Real Madrid won the auction, paying around €4 million for a 16-year-old. He was given a first-team squad number and trained with the senior side, alongside Ronaldo, Bale, and Benzema. In May, they brought him on for the last 20 minutes of a league game, replacing Cristiano Ronaldo. 16 years and 157 days old. The youngest player ever to appear for Real Madrid, a record that still stands. For about a week, he was the most talked about teenager in world football. And that was more or less it. For the next 2 seasons, he played for the reserve team, in the third tier of Spanish football, while the world wondered what the point of the whole exercise had been. Some people in Spain called it a marketing move, a shirt-selling stunt. And you can see the logic of the accusation. Real Madrid had a teenager on a first-team salary who played third-division football on Sundays, and the club got headlines in every country in Europe for signing him. So the loan started. Heerenveen in the Netherlands, at 18. Decent, not spectacular. A young man learning that being famous at 15 buys you nothing at all, once you are actually on a pitch with grown men who need the points. Then Vitesse, in Arnhem, and this is where the story actually turns. At Vitesse, he was finally the most important player on a team, rather than a curiosity attached to a famous one. 11 goals and 12 assists in a season. The supporters voted him their player of the year. He was 20, and for the first time since he was 15, the football was the story rather than the transfer, the price, or the hype. Then Real Sociedad, and a proper league. He was named the best player in Spain for the month of September. Madrid, watching their own player thrive somewhere else, cut the loan short and brought him back. He played 11 games and was loaned out again within 6 months, back to the same Spanish club he had just left. Read that again. He returned to Real Madrid having just proved himself in La Liga and left again almost immediately. Whatever the club had planned for him, 6 years in, they still had not decided what it was.
In January 2021, Arsenal took him on loan. They were 8th, drifting, with a young squad and a manager under pressure. It was not a glamour move. It was the first time anyone had wanted him for what he actually was, rather than what he might become. Mikel Arteta had watched him at Sociedad and wanted a specific thing: a midfielder who could take the ball under pressure and slow a game down. Not a prodigy, a player, for a job. That summer, they bought him outright for around £30 million. And then something happened that nobody in Spain had seen coming. He got better every single season. Not in flashes, systematically. More goals, more assists, more control of games, until by his second full season he was, by a lot of measures, the best attacking midfielder in England. The teenager who could not get a game in Spain was running matches in the Premier League. In 2022, at 23, Arsenal made him captain. Think about what that means in that dressing room. Not the loudest man, not the biggest. The quiet Norwegian who had spent 5 years being told he was a mistake. He did not talk his way into that armband. He was given it because the group already followed him. He captains Norway too, in a generation that finally has players. And the recent seasons have been harder. An ankle he rolled on international duty, a run of injuries, a season where the numbers dipped and the same voices that called him overhyped at 16 came back for another go. Which is the interesting part, because he has already lived through the worst version of that. Being written off at 19, in public, in a foreign country, is a different order of difficulty from a bad season as an established captain. Here is what his career actually proves, and it is not the usual lesson. It is not that talent wins in the end. It is that being at the biggest club in the world at 16 is close to the worst thing that can happen to a footballer, and the fix was leaving. Every year he spent away from Madrid made him better. Every year inside it made him a punchline. Heerenveen, Vitesse, San Sebastian. 3 places nobody in Madrid was watching, where a written-off teenager quietly turned into a captain. No cameras, no expectation, no weekly verdict on whether he had been worth the money. The wilderness was not the interruption to his career, it was the making of it. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Beyond the Boots for more. The Boots tell the story, we just follow the footsteps.